Welcome back to Open Line tonight. We are talking about the opioid epidemic, and a specific part of this. The city and many cities across this area and across the nation have decided to go after and sue the drug manufacturers and distributors, trying to get some money back for money spent taking care of addicts across our city. I have two lawyers here joining me tonight, Mark Chalos and Richard Mason. Thank you, gentlemen. Some interesting things that we've talked about already tonight. I promise we would get to the phones. We're also streaming live on Facebook. Thank you for your questions. And I do want to address, let's see, Chris wrote in and he says, what a waste of American money. They need to address the problem, not play in courtroom for lawyers to get rich. And I know some people have to feel this way. So I'm going to let you guys address that.
Right. Well, you know, this is something that the federal government has really fallen down on the job. This is something that, you know, these companies are not playing by the rules. And our civil justice system, the purpose of our civil justice system is to force these companies and other wrongdoers to play by the rules. They have had a generation to play by the rules, and they have ignored the rules, and they have profited wildly from that. So corporations understand only one language, and that's dollars and cents. And our civil justice system is a way to hold them accountable. It is a way to force them to play by the rules when other government actors are just not doing it. They haven't done it. So we're going to hopefully, through the civil justice system, force them to play by the rules and to hold them accountable for the harm they've caused, to get back this taxpayer money that has been spent to the tune of tens of millions of dollars in Tennessee alone, get it back to the taxpayers. Yeah,
and I've watched a couple of 60 Minutes when you talk about the different government agencies that have fallen down on the job. 60 Minutes has addressed this and looked at why hasn't the DEA stepped in when towns in Virginia are getting 3 times the amount of prescriptions of opioids that people who live there. And some very interesting stories. So if you have time, go back and watch those episodes. I do want to get to the phones because, as I always say, this is Open Line. We will take your calls first and foremost. Bill is on the line. Hi, Bill.
Yeah, I got several questions there for you. Okay. One of them is, why did the FDA approve these drugs to start with? Looks like somebody at the FDA should go to jail for approving them. And then another thing, why do you allow the doctors to give them 80 or 90 pills? Why not regulate those pills down to 10 pills and then have to go back to see the doctor again before they can get any more of them and see what condition they're in? Y'all are just allowing them to get by with being dope pushers and selling dope legally, claiming it's legal when it's not legal.
Yeah.
The people they give these 90 or 80 pills to, they turn around, if they got a bunch of them, they resell them themselves because they don't need that many pills. Somebody needs to stop the pill production and quit giving them to the people that don't need them.
Bill, you're very wise on this, and in fact, I know that in this session of the Tennessee legislature, they are taking up bills that would say, okay, for certain, unless it's, you know, end of life sort of thing, we need to cut down on those prescriptions and cut back on the number of things that can be prescribed. You only get a week's worth at a time, and then you have to go back to the doctor. And believe it or not, there's pushback against that. There's pushback against it. So we will see how that develops and runs through the legislature. But his first question, where's the FDA on this?
That's a great question, Bill. The FDA for years has relied on the drug companies to provide data, to provide information to them. The FDA does not have the resources, even though it's federal government. They don't have the resources to check the safety, check the risk factors with all of these drugs, so they rely on the industry. And you know, the industry has persuaded the FDA to approve lots of different opioids, including, as Mr. Manson referenced, the most recently to approve OxyContin for 11 to 16-year-olds. You know, and why little sis needs to be taking drugs at 11 to deal with pain in any but the most extreme circumstance is beyond me.
Yeah. Let's jump to another line here. We have Kirsten, I believe it is, on the line. Kirsten, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, go ahead.
So we were speaking earlier, or your figures were speaking earlier about holding the manufacturers accountable for money that's already been spent by communities. But is there something also that these lawsuits can do looking forward to help communities build treatment centers and sort of clean up the mess so that it can help the people who have already been damaged by this going forward, in addition to righting past wrongs?
Fantastic. Thank you for asking that question.
I think Metro, understanding what has happened to our community as it relates to the use of these drugs. I think they've been very proactive in terms of trying to address the problem. They have armed the EMS and police with this Narcan, which is very, very helpful in terms of when people actually are in an episode. They've invested in an opioid prevention coordinator at the Metro Health Department. And the mayor's office has been working with public schools and others to talk about and begin to educate people about their use of these drugs. The mayor's also in the process of seating a behavioral health advisory council, which will be a council of experts who can advise the mayor on strategies in mental health and substance abuse. And I do know at the state level, they're looking and trying to manage physicians and help physicians understand how to deal with pain in a very responsible manner, and they're making them go to school, get some additional training, you know, to try to help them understand that yes, people do suffer from pain, but maybe the way that they've been managing it can be altered to the point that it's not detrimental to that to those individuals and the whole family.
Yeah. When it comes to this lawsuit, let's say the drug companies end up paying to settle. What then? Will some of that money be used to build the treatment centers, as Kirsten was saying? Because, gosh, nobody can find a bed anywhere.
Yeah. That's the goal, absolutely. The goal is to recover taxpayer money that can then be used to fund education programs, treatment programs, and to save lives.
And the money will go back to the cities. It's not going to go to people. This is not a class action lawsuit. It will go back to the cities and the counties who have been part of this lawsuit.
That's right.
And then would it be totally up to them how it is used?
Yes, in this, more than likely. I mean, the governmental entities have their own discretion in how to spend their money. It may be that and we don't know yet what any settlement might look like. Sure. But what we know is that the governmental entities who have filed lawsuits have a seat at the table, and they have an ability to help craft whatever resolution there might be at the end. And part of that will be crafting solutions to save lives. That will be using money to do things like education, drug treatment, and explore alternative pain therapies, for example, to deal with people who have chronic pain. So the purpose of getting the taxpayer money back is not so they can just throw it into the general fund. The purpose is so that the money can be spent in positive ways to save lives in their communities.
Can either of you recall a time where cities and counties across the nation have all filed a similar lawsuit on whatever topic it may be, where something like this has happened before?
No, this is absolutely unprecedented, I think, in its scope and in the number of cities and counties around the country that have stood up and said, we're going to fight for our taxpayers. We are not going to let these companies continue to break the rules. There have been other lawsuits at other times involving different industries, but nothing on the level and the scope that we're seeing here.
With the talk of the federal government jumping on board, does that really change things, or is it just another entity joining?
It may change things. Yeah. We don't yet know really what the impact of that will be, but what the federal government has recognized and what these other counties and cities have recognized in Tennessee is that the time to act is now. You know, there is an active discussion happening in the federal courts right now, and for cities and counties in Tennessee that want a seat at the table, now's the time to do something.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to the lines here. We have Vicki waiting ever so patiently. Vicki, thanks for hanging with us. What's your question or comment?
I was just wondering about if there's any lawsuit like for the individual person. I mean, you know, it's hurt a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, I was one. I quit 2 years ago on my own, but my life has forever changed. My children's life has forever changed, and I just want...
I think we're losing you, but I know you guys can answer that question.
Well, Vicki, I'm glad that you were able to resolve your situation, and that's a very difficult thing to do, and so God bless you for that. There are lawsuits involving individuals. Those are difficult cases, but there are lawyers who are handling those cases. And
where individuals are suing the drug companies?
Individuals are suing the drug companies, or individuals are suing their doctors for prescriptions that they should have never gotten. In some cases, doctors were prescribing opioids plus some other drugs that caused a problem. We see oftentimes doctors have in the past class prescribed drugs like benzodiazepines, which are, you've heard of those being a problem with opioids. So that there are some lawsuits out there on that. The lawsuits we're involved in are on behalf primarily of governmental entities, cities and counties and states.
Yeah, this is a whole different ball of wax at this point. Okay, we have to take another quick break. More phone calls when we come back. Stay where you are.